The company Data East released over 100 different arcade games from their beginnings in 1978 up until their bankruptcy in 1997. And while at times their titles were a bit derivative of other hit games, they also often had some fun, offbeat vibes behind their ideas, and sometimes they would really crank up the absurdity to new heights. Which brings us to Trio the Punch, released in 1990, arguably their peak of unhinged chaotic energy. Trio the Punch Never Forget Me was developed internally at Data East and produced by the same team behind the wildly creative classics Karnov and Atomic Runner Chelnov. And with Trio the Punch, these would form into a trilogy known as the Dekoge Trio. Interestingly enough, this was originally planned to be a Sugoroku game, or in other words, a kind of board game experience. Types of Sugoroku in its classic tabletop forms are comparable to backgammon or Chutes and Ladders, with more contemporary video game versions evolving into something more like Coldcept or Mario Party. But as you can quickly tell upon starting up this game, the core concept shifted entirely into a side-scrolling brawler with a wild sense of humor, poking fun at various tropes and other Data East characters, much like other silly self-referential spoof games like Parodius or Choaniki. You can pick from 3 different characters: Santos the tough guy, a jock armed with a sandbag, or Kamakura-kun the ninja, armed with a dagger and throwing stars, and Rozusabu the swordsman, who can use a sword, torch, or morning star. They all have secondary sub-weapons as well, and both your main and sub-weapons can be upgraded by your sensei if you can get lucky with the spinning wheel in between levels. Cha-cha-cha. And the game's 35 stages are structured a bit strangely, where you'll often need to collect a certain number of yellow hearts dropped by specific enemies, with the stage screen wrapping endlessly until you've found them all. And at that point, you'll spawn a few stronger enemies to defeat, or potentially a boss. Or in some cases, the level itself is just one single boss fight. And probably a weird one. Even right out of the gate, the boss of level 1 is a giant Karnov statue being carried by a bunch of tiny little Karnovs. Yeah, this is my jam right here. And the craziness just continues from there, as you go on to fight some weird pink sheep thing, which you actually end up controlling in the next stage, or you'll also eventually have to battle with the giant foot, or maybe Chelnov sporting a giant hammer, or Colonel Sanders with a flying chicken brain thing, a giant Maneki Neko, these big blob mech monstrosities, and it's really just an absolute onslaught of unpredictable hilarity as you beat your way through a wide range of locations with no plot explanation whatsoever. And if you can stay sane enough to see this through to the end, the final stage has you destroy a few innocent creatures running around. Such cruelty. Only to reveal some sinister and mysterious force beneath the ground. Win-win indeed. So there isn't a ton of depth to this gameplay-wise, but whether you credit feed your way through, or if you're bold enough to attempt a 1-credit clear, or even a speedrun, it's really a blast if you appreciate this kind of deranged humor and can deal with a bit of jank. There are still some challenging sections at times, as continuing does restart your stage progress, so it's not a completely casual stroll the entire game, and you may have to develop some safe strats at times, especially if you get some unlucky roulette spins that can downgrade your gear. Regardless, most players can likely get through this in less than an hour, and what a brain-melting hour it is if you can get down with this irreverent humor and bathe yourself in all of this Data East goodness. Beyond the original arcade version, it has seen a few re-releases, one being on the PlayStation 2 as part of the Oretachi Gessen Zoku series, although it's kind of a slipshod emulated port there with some frame rate issues. so I'd say that's more of a cool collector's piece. It also got a mobile phone version released by Gmode in Japan, but currently the most accessible official way to get this would have to be the Arcade Archives release from 2022 on the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. The only problem there, however, is they use the Japanese version, so you will miss out on the wacky translations. So I gotta say, the worldwide arcade ROM is still the ultimate way to experience Trio the Punch. And I hope you enjoyed the video today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.